right, so in this week's video, we're continuing with this series on the CAGED system. This week, we're going to be looking at the A shape and all of the things you can do with this shape. Now, by the way, it'll be the same things that we talked about in the previous two videos. We looked at the C shape and the E shape. So in this video, we're going to look at the A shape, but we're going to be doing major chords, minor chords, major scales, minor scales, arpeggios, all of that stuff in this shape. We're going to be looking at it in one position using one chord, but that doesn't mean that this shape or any of these shapes are limited to the example. It's just the example to show you where it all relates. Remember, these shapes are movable, so you can play them anywhere. You can play any of the shapes anywhere. It'll start to all make sense towards the end of this. I'm going to wrap this whole series up and really do a deep dive for any of the missing components, for anybody that's got any questions and you're trying to, work that stuff out. So this is a series that builds upon itself. So everything that I played in the intro, that bluesy solo, minor key solo, was all played using things that we've already talked about in the previous two videos. The shapes from the previous two videos mixed with what we're about to learn in this video. So there's nothing in that that's a surprise. I'm going to break it down towards the end of this. In fact, for those of you that are watching this and you only want to watch the song or learn the song, maybe you just want to steal a lick or two, you don't care about the A shape, you can do that by jumping ahead to the time on the screen right now. Now, why you do that, I don't know, but that to each his own. So anyway, so if you're watching this out of series, you might want to start with the first video, which was EP556. You can go to activemelody.com. There's a little search box. You can just put in the number 556. Start with that video and then just kind of watch these in order. And then we're building up to something. Now, if you notice, the song that I played in the intro is a little more maybe melodic sounding than what we've done previously. It's just because we have more options, more variables, more colors on our palette, All right, so before we jump into this A shape, let me just address this one question I've had a few of you ask. It's a great question, actually. And the question is, how do you know which of these shapes to use? So in other words, I get it. I understand what they are and how to play them, but how do I know when to use one or which one to use? That's a great question, and I will actually do towards the end of this series, I'm going to do a follow-up on just that topic and kind of do a deep dive on that. But the quick answer is just pick what's nearby. That's a quick and easy way to address it. So if you drop in on the fretboard and play, let's use a shape we've already used, like the E shape. If I drop in here and play an A chord using the E shape, and I wanted to go to my 4 chord, I'm going to pick something that's nearby. So there's a 4 chord which is using the A shape, which we're about to learn. You haven't got this one yet. So look at this. And then I can move that up 2 frets and get to my 5 chord. These are just some similarities that you'll notice and you'll start to memorize. Anytime you're playing the E chord, now I realize I'm oversimplifying, I'm just giving a 1-4-5 example. But what I'm saying is you'll start to see patterns. So when you go from the 1 chord to the relative minor, and then the 4 chord, and then the 5 chord, you can do it all in one area just because you've done this before. You've heard of these things before. And so it all hinges on the root note. Now, this is a big takeaway in this, or a big, hopefully, and I've said this in the last 2 videos, but I don't know that I've made a big enough point about it. To know which chord shape to use, you have to know the note names on the strings, at least starting on the 6th and 5th string. Those are the 2 that you start with when you're first learning guitar, then you learn the others. And so I talked about that like in the first video in this series when we looked at the C shape. I showed you an E chord. And I played it like this, and I showed you where my pinky is, 7th fret, 5th string, that's an E note. Therefore, that's an E chord. Where my middle finger is, that on the 2nd string, that's an E note. So 2nd string tells me any note I play on the 2nd string, I can make this chord out of it, right? So if I come up 2 frets and play it here, I'm now playing an F sharp because that's an F sharp note. That's an F sharp note. And therefore, now here's the big takeaway part. It doesn't just mean that you play the chord. I'm just using that as the visual anchor. Once I have my bearings, now I don't need that chord anymore. Now I've got all the things I can do in that container. That's the big light bulb. Do you get what I'm saying? So now in this container, I've got my major scale. I've got my major pentatonic scale. I've got all that stuff. I've got my 7 chords. I've got my major 7 chord, my dreamy sounding chord, minor chord. It's all here in the same container. And so that first chord was just the name of the container. So anyway, I just wanted to start off with that because I think that might have been a little point of confusion. All right, let's look at the A shape. Now we're going to be looking at the D chord using the A shape. So if we think of our A chord down in first position, cowboy chord, right? That's the A shape. So let's move that up. In order to do that, we have to put our index finger down where the nut was when we played it in first position, right? We got to compensate. So that's how I make the shape. I use my pinky. And I realize that's not conventional. Most people that I see playing this chord, they play it like this. For whatever reason, my fingers are short, or I don't know, my hand is just weird. I learned to play that chord like this. I have more of leverage. I can squeeze harder with my hand and play this easier that way, just for me. But everybody's a little different. But that's how you make the chord, is you bar these three notes with whichever finger you want. And then you play this one here. And there's a fret in between them. Now there's the top part of that A shape, which is here. This note. Now some people can actually bend their finger in such a way that they can play all of those notes. I can't do that. And so I just look at it like this, like strings 5, 4, 3, and 2. And then the top part, I look at that as a separate sort of voicing, a separate triad. So let's get back up to D. That's where we're going to be doing all this. So everything I just showed you there, we're just going to move it up and play it up here. And that's the D chord using the A shape. Now, how do I know this is the D chord using the A shape? Well, that's because this note, where my index finger is, 5th fret, 5th string, that's a D note. And up here, inside the bar there, this little triad bar here, inside that bar on the 7th fret, 3rd string, that's a D note. So you have a D and a D. And therefore, that's a D chord. That's all the information I need to be able to make that chord. And the note that most people use when they're playing this chord is the note on the 5th string. And I think it's because it's so easy to remember those notes on the 5th string and 6th string. Those are the notes that we start with. That's how most people start. And so you've got your E shape, and now you've got your A shape. Your 1 chord, if you're using that shape, and then the 4 chord is right on top of it. It makes it very easy. 1, 4. And then you move it up 2 frets to get to the 5. All right, let's get back to our D. Okay, let's look at the D major scale now. So we're going to start with our middle finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, and we're going to play it like this. There's 1 octave of it. Now let's keep going up. Now we're going to switch fingers, because we're going to kind of cover some different frets here. So from this D note on the 7th fret, 3rd string, we're going to go and come up to here. That's as far as I want to go in this container. So that's our container. Now some notes are going to spill out of that and spill into this 4th fret. That's okay, but this container is here, the D container, the D drawer. We've got a few things kind of spilling out of the drawer. So it sounds like this. Let's go back down. Now there's some more notes below this. Watch this. So you have those 4 notes as well. So all of that is your D major scale. There's the root. There's the root. Now remember, as we've said in previous videos in this series, inside of your major scale is your major pentatonic scale. We just get rid of 2 of the notes from your major scale to create that pentatonic scale. So to play our D major pentatonic scale in this A position, we're going to play it like this. We're going to use our middle finger, 5th fret, 5th string, and play it like this. And then walk it back down. You've also got 2 more notes on the 6th string, which is the 7th fret and the 5th fret. And that shape should look familiar if you're familiar with your pentatonic scales. That would be pattern 5 of your major pentatonic scale. Right? So you've got that inside of your major scale. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at, which corresponds to this, is the D major arpeggio. We're going to start again with our middle finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, and play it like this. That's our 1, 3, 5. That's it. Those are the notes of my D major arpeggio. But we'll keep going up. We're just going to bar here. So you can see I played the top part of that A shape. So, and then back down. You've also got this note, 5th fret, 6th string. That's also in the arpeggio. So, all right, so now let's look at the D major 7 chord. So we're going to go back to our D chord using the A shape, and there's the root, there's our D. Remember the major 7 chord, you have the 1, 3, 5, and the 7. So there's the 7. The 7 is always just one note behind, one fret behind the root. So that's my root. There's the note behind the root. But you also need, in the lower register, you need to have the root itself. So you need to have the D down here. So the way that you'd make that, you'd finger that chord, looks like this. And to me, the easy way to think about this chord is these 3 fingers are making that same shape as the D7 chord down in 1st position. So just playing strings 5, 4, 3, and 2. That's your D major 7 chord. So that means there's also a D major 7 arpeggio, which looks like this. There's your 1, 3, and 5, and then there's the 7. So let's keep going up. Now let's go back down. Now from here, we've also got some lower notes. We can go like this, right? So from all the way down here, we have that's your D major 7 arpeggio. All right, so now let's look at our D7 chord, D dominant 7 in this A position. So we started with this, our D major chord. Then we played our D major 7. Right? We took the root and we dropped it down 1. Now to play the D7, we're going to drop the root one more time to play the flat 7. So now all we have to do is play, and we're playing a D7. So it's nice and easy to play because you're just using 2 notes there. And I use my pinky and my ring finger to play that. But again, it's just strings 5, 4, 3, and 2, and that's a D7 in this position. Bonus D7 in this position. You've also got one up here. If you bar the first 4 strings on the 7th fret and then use your ring finger or middle finger to play that note, the 1st string on the 8th fret, that's another voicing. Now I'm going to lump that into the G shape, so we're not going to cover that in this. But I'm only mentioning that because those 2 shapes, the A shape and the G shape, they both share a lot of the same real estate. So they're kind of one and the same in some ways. But for this video, we're going to look at the 7 chord like this. So we also have a scale that matches this D dominant 7 chord, and that's Mixolydian scale. Mixolydian scale, as I've mentioned before, is the same as your major scale, but you flat the 7 to match the flat 7 in the chord. That's it. So it looks like that. That's 1 octave of it. We can keep going up. And you can hit this one up here, right? Which is in that chord. You're starting to see the chord and the flat 7 and hear the sound. Once you connect those things, you've got the visual. Okay, I can see the chord. I can hear that sound. And I know where that is in the scale and the chord. That's my D Mixolydian scale. There's a few more notes down on the 6th string. You have 8th fret, 7th fret, and 5th fret. So let's put it all together from here. Now to go with that D7 chord, we've got a D7 arpeggio. So it looks like this. We're going to start with our middle finger, 5th fret, 5th string, and play 1, 3, 5, and then flat 7. And then back up to the 1, 3, 5. And then there's another flat 7 here, which was in that chord I just showed you, that bonus chord, right? So, and then you walk it back down. Now there's 2 other notes that are below that, 8th fret, 6th string, down to the 5th fret. So, all right, so now let's move on to the last set of tools, which are our minor chords. So we're going to look at a D minor chord. So we started with our D minor chord like this, using the A shape. And remember, to play a minor chord, all you have to do is flat the 3rd. So the 3rd interval in this chord is here. So we just go down 1 fret. So now, if you do that, you're playing a D minor. Now this should look familiar. If you look at these 3 fingers and you think of your 1st position chords, this is going to be a light bulb for somebody out there. That's your A minor chord, right? So remember, we're playing out of the A shape. Oh yeah, A major, A minor. And you can see all the difference between those two is just that flat third. We're doing the same thing up here, right? Flattening the third. Okay, so the minor scale then, which we'll attach to this chord, goes like this. We're going to start 5th fret, 5th string, the D note here with our index finger, and play it like this. There's 1 octave of it. We'll keep going. And then we'll play it up to here. So let's go back down. Now we're going to add a few more notes down on the 6th string. So that'll be 8th fret, 6th fret, 5th fret. So all together, now inside of that D minor scale that we just played is the D minor pentatonic scale. Remember, we're just getting rid of 2 of the notes from our minor scale to create the minor pentatonic. Penta means 5, as opposed to the 7-note scale we just played. So this is your D minor pentatonic scale in the A position, A-shaped position. It's your pattern 4 of your minor pentatonic scale. Right, and you can see now when you play that minor pentatonic scale, which you probably played a million times, maybe you can see it different when you can see, oh, inside of that I can see this chord, that minor chord, and I can also see the minor scale. The last thing we'll talk about here is the D minor arpeggio. We're going to start again, 5th fret, 5th string with our index finger and play it like this. Remember, it's just root, flat 3rd, 5th, and then we'll keep going. And then back down. You got 1 more note here, which is on the 6th string, 5th fret. And that's your D minor arpeggio. All right, let's take this information and start using it and pull it together into a solo. Let me play the first part of the lead that I played in the intro, and then we'll talk about that. All right, so this is a minor key blues, and I'm playing in the key of D minor. So our 1 chord is a D minor. Our 4 chord is our minor 4 chord is a G minor. And then we go to a major 5, which is an A, and then back to the D minor. That's what we're playing over. And so I started with playing that for the lead part. It comes in on the 3, 1, 2, 3. Right on the 3, so it doesn't come in on the 1. So those of you that have the jam track and you're trying to play along, count it out 1 and 2 and right on the 3. Now what I'm making here is a little stair step shape. I've got the tab up on the screen, but I played just the notes out of that. That is my D minor chord using the A minor shape, the top 3 strings of it. Hopefully a light bulb goes off for somebody out there and you go, oh wait, so that little stair step shape that we use all the time, I see how that's now in this A minor shape, right? It's just the top 3 strings of it. And then after that I went, because the song goes to a G minor, right? So after the stair step thing, which is just me arpeggiating the chord, the minor chord, then I went into the D minor pentatonic scale, pattern 4, and I started here on this 8th fret, 2nd string with a bend, then played it without the bend, came down and played those notes, 6, and then we go to the 7th fret and play string 3 and then string 4. And those notes are out of pattern 4 of your minor pentatonic scale for D, D minor. And okay, so let me just mention this. When you're improvising this, you can map out every chord as it passes by, and I do a lot of that in the solo, or you could just stay in the key of the song. You have that option. If you ever get lost when you're playing a lead, and everybody does, 100% of the people do, what you do is you just go back to the key of the song. You can remember the song key. It doesn't matter if there's 100 chords in it. The key is the key of D. So this is a minor key vibe, so I could just play D minor pentatonic scale if I ever get lost. So all these little fill licks that I do in this entire lead are just D minor pentatonic for that reason. Okay, then after this note, I came up to this 8th fret 3rd string and played this. Played this little triad here. Now some of you will remember this. We talked about this 2 lessons ago in this series. This is in the C shape. This is the minor triad from that C shape. So remember, like, if we're playing the G major chord, there it is using the full C shape. But if we play the minor, we flat the 3rd, and that's the minor triad. There's different ways I showed you to play that in that lesson. You can play it like this as well. But all I played out of it was this little triad. But that's coming out of the C shape. So I'm playing my G minor chord using the C shape. Now, the big thing is, that would be confusing to me if I was watching somebody explain this. I would say, okay, I understand that, but how in the heck did you remember to use that shape? And there's 5 shapes, and I tell you how I did it. It's by using my ear, and this comes over time. What I heard was, I knew from here, I could come into that flat 3rd of the chord. And I just know, it's all these little things you hear over time, like going from the flat 3rd into your major 3rd of a chord. You just sort of hear that, and you kind of know what to do with your fingers. So for me, it was, I could come into the flat 3rd and then play that little triad. My fingers kind of knew what to do. So I don't sit and think, oh, C shape, A shape. I'm not thinking that way when I'm doing this most of the time. I'm just sort of feeling out. I know from this note, I know kind of a region to go into. That's probably the best way to say that. Okay, so now the song goes to the 5 chord, which is major. So we go to our A major. So I'm asking myself that question. This goes back to the beginning of this video when I said, how do you know which shape to go into? Well, I know that the chord is A major. So where's my nearest neighbor? I always say, like, well, yeah, I have an A right here using the E shape. So we were here playing the G minor triad. That's what I played. But I was thinking about this. The A dominant 7 arpeggio, that's out of the E shape. Right? Now I did a little embellishment off of it. A little bend there. A little half bend on that 5th fret 2nd string. And then I come down to the 3rd of the chord. Did a little half bend there. But I was seeing that arpeggio. And then once you start to see that with the minor pentatonic scale pattern 4, hear it? Do you hear that? Minor? Listen to the major. So I went into the major 5, the 5 chord, which is major. So you can hear those differences, and once you can kind of hear them, your fingers are sort of feel their way into that next neighbor. So you really, your head kind of leaves it at some point, the further into this you get. Then the song goes back to the D minor chord. So after that little half bend there, I could play this. And that's just getting back into my D minor pentatonic scale, really. And then I went, and that's minor pentatonic scale pattern 4. All right, so the song is going to repeat. We're going to play those same 3 chords, D minor, G minor, A. And I could have stayed in the same area and just kept doing stuff there. But to give you ideas, more ideas, and help you really understand this CAGED system, I came up here. So now I'm going to play my D up here in the E shape, right? There's the E shape. I lift my middle finger. Now I've got my minor chord. And so I'm going to be playing those 3 chords in this position. So just real quick, let's just look at the chords. We've got our D minor. Where would our G minor be that's close by in this neighborhood? Oh yeah, using the A shape. We'll use the minor version, which we just learned. We can do it right here. So there's my D minor, G minor, and then my 5 chord, which is my A, I've got it right here. using the C shape or C7 shape. Now that's my A7 chord, but you can see it's all right on top of each other in the same area. All right, so I started with this lick. And that lick is D minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. That's all I'm doing. Remember, pattern 1 is in your E shape. So I just walked right up the scale. There's nothing clever there. So 10th fret to the 12th fret, starting on the 4th string. And then I came all the way up to the 13th fret, 2nd string. And then after that, I played this. Now this is pretty much minor pentatonic scale as well, with the exception of this note. And that note would be in your minor scale, your natural minor scale. So it's a hammer-on between the 10th fret and 12th fret on the 1st string. And then we walk down to 12th fret, 3rd string. And then I do a full bend on this 12th fret, 3rd string. Hit that same note that I just bent to on the 10th fret, 2nd string, and then hit this note when the song goes to the G minor. Now that's a really cool note. That's just one note, but to me, that's the difference in playing just in the key of the song and just doing pentatonic scale stuff versus playing more melodic is in this. Because when I came to that note, I came to the flat 3rd of my G minor. Because remember, I said the G minor using the A shape was here. The top part of that minor chord is the little stair step. Oh, like light bulbs going off for somebody out there. I can feel it, right? We started down here using our D minor using that shape. Now we're doing the same thing. We're just playing it up here for the G minor. So that note is inside of that little stair step. That's your flat 3rd. There's your major 3rd. But remember, we're flatting it for the minor. And then to conclude that idea, I went after I played. And that's just playing my G minor arpeggio, right? And then I landed back on that flat 3rd. Now I'm gonna wrap up this part 1 video there. That's a ton of information. Come join us in part 2, where we'll go over the second half of this lead. And remember, as a premium member, you'd have access to the tablature, the MP3 jam track of everything, and also the PDF downloadable, which is a cheat sheet for all of those ideas for the things you can do in the A shape. A lot of information, so be sure to check that out. And leave a comment on this video if you don't mind. Just let me know if you're understanding this, if you got any questions, if anything isn't clear. I like to know that because it helps me refine these videos as I continue to put them out in this series for sure. All right, we'll see you in the next video.